For the best Italian food in Western New York, Elliot Apollos, call 716-825-3675. The Lardon Construction Group.
Fubo TV, the official streaming service of Do Champions. FanDuel, the official sportsbook of Do Champions.
For all your summertime needs, beauty pools, as well as kayak pools.
CX Chronicles, your total customer solutions focused manager. W.GG, the official energy drink of Do Champions.
Hey, Sons of Erie, our artwork looks better on your walls. Hamburg Brewing, please visit our tap room on Boston State Road, Hamburg, New York. And finally,
Fat Boy Surf Club for all your surfing needs.
Hey folks, how we doing today? It is Monday. We got a mini bye for the Buffalo Bills after a little brutal loss on the Thursday night. Everybody, if you could like and subscribe, please, to us. That's how the little guys make it. How you doing today, Alex?
I'm doing all right. Thursday was pretty brutal. Took me a little bit to get over this one. The last couple losses, I got over a lot quicker. This one a little more frustrating, but my fantasy teams did pretty good on Sunday, so that kind of helped make up for it. A lot of wins.
There you go. That always does like mini just help you out sort of thing.
Yeah, the silver lining.
Yeah, the silver lining of something, right? If you win a
Like-
bet, I do. Go ahead.
Like Joe Burrow coming back, it sucks because we have to play him, but in a heated playoff race, I have him in a league, so that's a silver lining.
Yeah, there you go. Okay,
Yeah.
So like random cleanup for the weekend. Did you get to see the Hallmark movie?
I have not watched it yet. I plan on watching it at some point, but no, I have not watched it yet.
Well, whatever your fuzzy beverage of choice, have a lot before you do it because it's a good movie. Don't get me wrong, but it's better when you're on a substance, in my personal opinion, because it's cheesy. It's cheesy. It's a love story. The acting is terrible, and then the premise is just flabbergasting. So it was a good movie. Go ahead.
What's worse, the acting or Joe Brady's play calling?
Joe Brady's play calling.
Okay, so it's not that bad. All right, it's not that bad.
Yeah. Good point. That was actually a good question. But yeah, I mean, Thursday was definitely rough. I agree with you. I'm nervous about this team going forward in the sense of we watch this team on a weekly basis, but just consistently watching the AFC is something that is kind of hard to compartmentalize together. Like look at your team and then be able to differentiate your like harsh feelings for Buffalo versus what everybody else is doing, right? Because Patriots almost lost to the Cincinnati Bengals without Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, right?
Drake May played awful. I honestly think Josh Allen played better against the Texans than Drake May played against the Bengals. His one touchdown, Hunter Henry was wide open by like 30 yards. He had the pick six, and he had a couple more almost interceptions. I was watching that game for the most part. Drake May was inaccurate, just making bad decisions. They had first and goal at the 1 yard line. They had 8 plays and couldn't score, and then they get down to the 1 yard line again and have to settle for a field goal. If it's not for an awful defensive pass or missed defensive pass interference, the Bengals may have won that game. And a game without Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, which is legit their entire team. And T. Higgins got injured on the in the fourth. They literally were, and no Trey Hendrickson. They had 4 good players in the fourth quarter. They were without all 4 and almost beat the Patriots. Like the Patriots did not look good. Yeah, they came out with the win, and sometimes that's all that matters. I wish the Bills would do that a little more often, but they did not look that good. And then Indy lost to Kansas City. Denver has Bo Nix as their quarterback. The Chiefs, we've already beaten. Lamar hasn't looked good since the Dolphins game. He's not healthy. They barely beat the Jets. And the rest of this AFC is looking weak, but the Bills have their issues. So it's like, I really don't know who's going to come out. And any given Sunday, I'm still going to trust Josh, but it's so tough at this point.
100%. And now, like, we shouldn't look too far in the future because we'll talk about the Steelers and then how we got to get there. Because right now we are the 7th seed. But, everybody's right behind us. Every game matters. But looking at this team and then kind of understanding that we should make the playoffs, where is your major concern of winning, at least being able to win the wild card matchup?
My concern is that we'll be on the road. Because the division looks pretty – and we now have a losing record since 2023 on the road. And
Crazy.
it's crazy. The reason we've been so good is because since Joe Brady took over, since that Denver Broncos game where Ken Dorsey got fired, we've lost one home game during the regular season. That's why we've been so dominant at home, but we've struggled on the road. And a lot of these, I mean, at home, the only loss was against New England, but that's a divisional opponent where we just had a lot of fluky things. Like our 3 worst games of the year all came on the road. We lost to Atlanta, and Atlanta looks terrible. We lost to Miami. They've been terrible. And then we get, in my opinion, our worst offensive performance of the year against Houston. I thought against Miami, we at least were consistently moving the ball, but a couple of red zone turnovers and just some, like a push fumble, a James Cook fumble, stuff like that. Like we were actually moving the ball. This Texans game, outside of that 4th and 27 completion, that second half, after the first drive, we couldn't move the ball at all. And I get Houston has the best defense in football, but I thought, and Davis Mills in the first half was dotting us up. I thought this was our worst game of the year. I mean, you can make the argument, short week on the road against a team we struggle, a team we match up bad against. We did predict this loss going into the season. I thought without CJ Stroud, we'd be able to pull it out, but it was pretty rough. And I think that's what I'm most scared about is just us playing on the road. I think our defense, at least on the road in the first half, is awful. It tightens up in the second half, adjustments get made, and then our offense just struggles to get anything going on the road. I mean, even in games we have won on the road, Carolina, we put up 40 points, but that was more so just a couple of big plays by the defense because Andy Dalton sucks and James Cook had a couple of good plays. Our offense looked clunky in that game. In the Jets game, it was the James Cook show and their passing offense being nothing. Like those are our only 2, I think, wins on the road. If I'm thinking about it, am I missing any? No, I think those are our only 2 wins.
Yeah.
Andy Dalton and the Panthers, and Justin Fields and the Jets, like that. And we're 2 and 3 on the road so far, and we look considerably worse. But at home, we put 44 on the Bucks. We beat the Chiefs. We beat the Ravens. At home, we're great. But on the road, it's just so bad. So losing that division, it's going to be tough. I still, again, when it comes to playoff Josh Allen and not being against the Chiefs, I still trust that we can go on a run. I'm not saying we will, but with how wide open this AFC looks, I'm not going to count the team out yet. But it is definitely getting more and more frustrating as the games go on.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't know how much. It's hard to kind of put into words how much stock you want to put into a short week going to Houston against the number 1 defense, right? Because that is all very fair when it comes down
without
to
no Kincaid.
Right, without no Kincaid. The Tampa Bay Bucks was a hard-nosed match when it comes down to it, scoring lots of points, going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, emotional win, and then going into there. But, I mean, when it comes down to, I think my main concern overall heading into the playoffs is our defensive line. And our coaching in itself is, Joey Bosa's got his wrist injury, and that's probably not going away. So the online doctors say he could heal by himself in 3 weeks, or if he gets a small surgery, it could be 4 to 5 weeks, right? I don't know which route to take because we're so drummed up on the defensive line that just McDermott's whole entire thing this year is to match pass rush with coverage. And I like the idea initially because when we had Ed Oliver, healthy Joey Bosa, healthy Michael Hoyt, and everybody along those lines, it certainly worked. So, when we're going to talk about, where are we putting blame sort of thing, I think it's rough to not acknowledge the defensive line injuries, but I don't think the coaching staff is really on the same page on all aspects of the offense and the defense, because I feel like they just want to stick to their process and they don't want to adjust on it. You keep hearing McDermott still talking about pass rush and coverage and things along those lines. And as a defensive-minded head coach, I feel like Sean McDermott now needs to switch it into disguise blitzing and disguise coverages to try and fake them out, because we can't rely on rushing with 4 or 5 just traditionally with our defensive line injuries, and to expect Trey White and Matt Milano sitting in the linebacker position and then Jordan Poyer in the safety position being able to cover in those aspects when we have no pass rush. So we need to change the defensive philosophy now, and so then we're familiar with it in the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree. I also think that part of the defensive line issues is just McDermott's philosophy. There's a reason every single defensive lineman that leaves plays better. Jordan Phillips, or not Harrison Phillips.
Tim Settle.
Tim Settle and Poona Ford were basically unplayable for the Bills, and they have been game wreckers in LA and on the Texans. It's because McDermott's philosophy, he wants every defensive lineman to get as light and as quick as possible and no one be able to hold any gaps. It's mind-blowingly stupid. I get why you want having an Ed Oliver, having a Deion Walker. It's great. You want some of them, but you don't want all of them. Relying on Daquan Jones as being the only anchor is terrible, and that's why our rush defense is so bad. I mean, it's not the only reason. Linebacking play has been pretty bad too. But when you have dog shit Jones holding up and getting taken 5 yards back every time he gets doubled because he sucks at this point, and he's been awful all year. He wasn't very good last year. And having no one else who can hold doubles because he wants all these guys to lose a bunch of weight so they're quicker, it's just stupid. It doesn't make any sense. I'm pretty sure I saw somewhere that when Tim Settle joined, the McDermott had to lose 15 pounds. Oh, he played a lot worse? Yeah, because they had him doing something he wasn't good at. In Houston, they have him bigger and beefier. He's holding up doubles. He's still penetrating. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. And that's where it's like, I don't fault Bean as much for the defensive line issues because he's gotten guys that when they're not on Buffalo have been very good. And then when they get to Buffalo, they suck. That's not Bean's fault. That's McDermott. That's Babbage. That's whoever's in the defensive meetings, all the defensive coaches. It's on them because Bean's getting guys who have played well, and then they come to Buffalo and they don't play that good. I'm not going to blame Bean for that.
Yeah, I agree. And what's crazy in McDermott's aspect is McDermott can be ahead of the curve at sometimes. Like McDermott wanted to have that run game.
I think so.
Coverage wise, 100%. And even getting the run game going and things like that, like he was ahead of the curve. But for some reason, he doesn't understand that now these defensive tackles at 320 pounds, at 325 pounds are now just as athletic as 305 to 310 pounds. They can still I know that they're a bigger body, so they can't necessarily get through the crevices, but they can sure swim move on that interior or shed quickly in a rip and get through and bring interior pressure. So the mind-blowing thing is why McDermott, and I mean, Bean might be pigeonholed into drafting these guys because of McDermott, but it's clearly obvious when you see their combine results, who they are and how athletic they are, that you can just still get a 320-pound guy and still do McDermott's defensive scheme. So, I mean, that's an issue. And it even comes down to the edges, too. The edges are specific when it comes to compression edges. They want the 270, which is more than fine if you want the 270 edges, but they can't just have a bull rush and a swim move or one move sort of thing. You need DPRs now in this year, especially next year in the draft. You've got Ruben Bain and Keldrick Falk as Bills-like edges in the top. After that, it's a lot of DPR. 249, 6'3", quick guys off the line of scrimmage, and they're going to have to use those type of guys.
Yeah, and the Greg Rousseau type is great. I'm still a Greg Rousseau believer, even though I think he struggled to start the year because of injury. I thought he's been, for the most part, fine since then. He's had some really good games. Houston, he wasn't so great, but his style, I think he's worth the 20 mil. I think he's an elite run defender. He's elite at setting the edge. He can get some pressures. I know, pressures. He doesn't get the sack numbers, but if you're judging defensive ends solely based off sack numbers, then you don't know what you're talking about. There's a lot more to an edge rusher that is a defined edge rusher. Their job's a little more just pure sacks. They're on the field to get sacks. A defensive end has a lot more than that. And outside of getting the sack, Rousseau's pretty much like, if Rousseau could get 15 sacks, he would be getting paid as much as Myles Garrett and Max Crosby because he is as good as them at everything else. He's just not good at getting the sack numbers. And that's why he doesn't get paid that. That's why instead of getting paid 35, 40 mil, he's getting paid 20 mil and really a little bit less than that. It's more like 18 mil. He's the 16th highest paid defensive end, I'm pretty sure. That's for what he offers. That's perfect. The issue is they have the same type of builds on the other side. So it doesn't, what Group brings doesn't get as isn't as quantified because we have the guy on the other side doing the exact same thing. And it's like, wow, no one's getting pressure. If you get a speed guy that requires the quarterback to move around, Greg Rousseau having gap integrity, holding his position, not letting quarterbacks get outside, being the contain guy, it would show up a lot more. He's going to get more cleanup sacks, but it's because he's in position by playing that where they get forced into him because he's so good at that. And against the run, he only has 3 tackles for loss. The amount of times I see running backs or jet sweeps go to his side and then have to cut up and then they get tackled by like a Bernard or something. He's not making the tackle, but he's doing his job. And then they do it to the other side. And Joey Bosa and AJ Epinesa are running like a chicken with their head cut off because they have no idea where the ball is. And they cut inside every time. And the running back goes outside for a big gain. It's like, that doesn't happen to Greg Rousseau. That happens to the other guys. And I just think people fail to realize that. And I've been seeing it a lot on Twitter lately about how Greg Rousseau sucks. And it's just been frustrating. And I really want to get that off my chest.
No, I agree because he is a pivotal part. Like, take out Greg Rousseau on the defensive line, it is trash. Even like with Ed Oliver, Michael Hoyt, and everything. I wouldn't say he's trash with everybody healthy, but it's a pivotal piece missing because you're right. Because our run defense is so kind of weak. He brings most of that juice to it and setting the edge. And I very much agree. That's one stat that is only quantified by tape is redirection in that run game, forcing people into certain ideas. But I mean, when it comes down to it, something has to give. And my question is how do you think the defensive line is going to be coming up to this week? Do you think that like Morgan Fox is an answer? Because we're, Fedarian Mathis, I'm not sure if he'll play on Sunday. Jordan Phillips got he just like Daquan Jones, Jordan Phillips had just as bad as a game when it came down to that. So where's our answer? We need to fix Michael Hoyt's Achilles injury. Like, who can?
Yeah, can he take mine? He can have mine.
Yeah, right. Like, Javon Solomon's not the answer, unfortunately, when it comes down to it. Very good. Unfortunate, a little less on the weight. Do you think Morgan Fox can step into a Hoyt role and at least contribute in that department?
Got to try it. I mean, he's had some production for Atlanta. He's not like a world beater, but I mean, he can get the occasional sack, and you got to try something. You can't just roll out these. Just at least try. Just keep trying different pieces, and maybe a fine lightning in a bottle that you can ride into the playoffs. If not, it can't get any worse than it is right now. So yeah, I would like for them to try Morgan Fox. I see the one comment about Shaq Lawson. Yeah, I think we're all thinking the same thing when we saw he was in Buffalo. Yeah. We're like, oh no, not again. And I never even hated Shaq Lawson. I thought he's basically just a much worse version of Greg Rousseau. The issue is we already have a lot of those versions, so we don't need him.
Right. Right.
Yeah. I mean, that's basically my thought on Shaq Lawson. I mean, I guess if they throw him on the practice squad, whatever, I don't really care. I mean, it means he'll probably end up getting call-ups, which will be annoying. But this I don't agree with. And Steve, I have to warn you, do not fall into the Sabres trap. They will lose on Wednesday. I can guarantee it. I love the Sabres. You can see the Ryan Miller fat head in the I've already gone to like 4 games this year. The Sabres, I'm probably going to, if I didn't refuse to bet against my favorite teams, I'd put $50 on Penguins money line on Wednesday. It's the Sabres. I called it when they were going to lose to the Blues. I called it when they're going to lose to Calgary. Every time you think there's hope, they lose. It's just the Sabres. I think they're going to lose 3 in a row personally, just because they've won 4 out of 5, which means they have to that's just how the Sabres are. So do not fall in their trap until they actually make the playoffs. Do not believe in them. I'm telling you. Unfortunately,
somehow get there. Okay, yeah. So now Steve brings up the good question that we're kind of predicating this whole entire show is we need to hire coordinators from the outside of the organization instead of status quo from within. That is somewhere where we would like to kind of maybe break down the coordinators. We won't go into depth, but like, who do we believe is the most fault as of today? And then where should we go postseason and consider different coordinators from where and things along those lines. So number 1, who would you put the top blame on? And then who would you put the least blame on? Miley.
I can't believe I'm saying this because I've been a defender of his for a long time, but I think it is Joe Brady. And it's not because I think his offense is bad. I think it got figured out and he just hasn't adjusted. What he wants to run is how I want an offense to run. It's kind of similar to like McVay, Shanahan, that type of tree. The issue is they're innovators. They stay ahead of the curve. They don't, you adapt, they'll adapt right back. And and they just constantly stay ahead. The problem is Joe Brady's offense got stale. What I think it was a defensive back for the Texans said watching film for the Bills was the exact same as what they watched last year. And that's over a year later, it's the exact same thing. Like, I get you're going to have the same similar plays. Like, you have an offensive identity. That's fine. But the predictability is just frustrating. Like on that Josh Allen interception, the first one, they run play action and the linebackers did not bite one bit.
Didn't bite.
They knew exactly what was coming. And then you get that 1st and 10, we're driving, and you run it 4 straight plays, turnover and down. What is Joe Brady must have nightmares when it comes to 4th and 1 or 3rd and 1 because of last year in the AFC Championship game? Is he scared if he calls too many tush pushes, it won't work? Because anytime I get to 3rd and 1, I would pull a page out of the Eagles playbook. I'm running tush push back-to-back plays. And I'm trusting Josh Allen to get a yard, because if you give him back-to-back, I think he's going to get it every single time. But apparently Joe Brady doesn't believe that for some reason. Whatever. So I give him the most blame. If we're talking about just coaches and like management, no players, I think Joe Brady gets the most blame. And I think Brandon Beane, while gets some blame, I think gets the least. I think it's a coaching malpractice right now. I get Joe Brady, Brandon Beane with the wide receivers and everything. But I mean, he was right that this offense was very good last year. Yes, it was kind of fluky with the no turnovers and the no sacks and stuff like that. But if Joe Brady adjusts his offense, our offense probably doesn't have these really bad games. It's just teams have figured it out. And then defensively, Beane has put so many assets into getting the players that McDermott wants on this defense and to fill McDermott's philosophy. The issue is, and which is how it should be, I want my GM to get players the coach wants for his side of the ball. Like if I'm an offensive guru,
right,
I'm going to get offensive players that fit his scheme. If I'm a defensive guru, because that's how it should work. You're going to trust, okay, that's why this guy was brought in for his defense. I'm going to get guys he wants. Obviously, he's not just blindly following McDermott. He has to agree on the player too. But he's getting guys to fill McDermott's philosophy and scheme, and then it fails every single year. Well, maybe it's because McDermott's scheme sucks. His philosophy is outdated. We already brought up about every defensive tackle when brought to Buffalo plays much worse, and when they leave, they play better again. I mean, you can even say the same thing about Rasul Douglas. He was basically unplayable last year, and he went to Miami, and that, with all the injuries, how bad that defense is, and he's been playing pretty decent. I would have liked to, maybe he could have came back, but he played so bad last year in McDermott's system that we couldn't have him back. But in Miami, he's playing fine, and it's like, I just don't blame Beane for that. I blame McDermott because it's his job to get the best out of these players, and he's not. And it's just very frustrating. I get Beane has had his issues. The wide receiver core is a mess. We do have defensive problems, and some is on him for not always getting the right players. But I think it's more McDermott, and it's also Beane's fault for keeping these coaches around. So there is blame. Beane is on the hot seat for me, but McDermott's got to go. I'm completely done with McDermott. The only way he can win back anything for me is if we go on some crazy run and win the Super Bowl. Beane, give me an off season. If you can fix this coaching staff and they can at least go on a run next year, at least make a Super Bowl, win a Super Bowl. You actually are aggressive next year, going all in. You make some big time trades. There's a lot of options available. I don't know who truly will be available to the off season, but you make some big time trades. You make some big time moves. You hire a good coaching staff. He can be redeemed. McDermott, you're gone. Joe Brady with you. Babbage, bye-bye. Clean house. Get rid of every coach but Aaron Kromer for all I care.
I mean, I agree with you at this point. I think I put more blame on McDermott than I do Brady overall, just because I think obviously Brady's the head coach, and when it comes down to it, he should be making full-time decisions when we're in panic mode. And especially if you look down at our 3rd down success and our 4th down success compared to last year to this year, it is definitely way lower when it comes to a percentage this year. And then as well, is you can just see, it seems like they're not connected in what you're calling. The amount of times that finally McDermott had to get Joe Brady to stop running a sweep, right? Like that should have been done 2 weeks before that. And just the success rate and what we're doing on fourth down. Was it the Chiefs where we ran the 13 personnel and then he came around and then it was that dump pass to Jackson Hawes that ended up falling off and we didn't convert that fourth down. Like, how is McDermott setting this culture when we're running just even fans noticing how bad the play calling is on pivotal 3rd and 2s, 4th and 1s, like all this stuff means that something's broken and it should be on the head coach 100%. But I agree with you with Joe Brady. It seems as though you're talking about the Rams. Puka Nacua ran a motion that went in between the C gap, in between the tackle and the tight end, and it opened him up there. Right. It was a 30-yard play. And it's like, hey, if you're going to pigeonhole Khalil Shakir, do something like that, right? Like, get him in motion and be more tricky in motion than just basically going out wide. Joe Brady's favorite thing is to put a 2x2 on both sides and see who has the advantage, right? And then throw the screen to which side has the advantage and then block. And then you go one-on-one blocking and then you beat your man one-on-one. That doesn't work when we're so predictable, and you have to stop that. Anthony from Cover One does a great job at identifying plays, and you can tell, when he talks about double China 7, that is, 3 short posts, and then an X runs a go route, and then James Cook runs the wheel, and it's constant, right? That's where our predictability comes from, is when you have Western New York podcasters saying, this is the play that they spam, this is the play that they spam, this is the play that they spam. Like, it's predictable for fans. That means it's massively predictable for teams. And it's confusing why Joe Brady does not add wiggles into it. It's almost like we're thinking, our wide receivers can only do 2 things, right? Like Khalil Shakir can only mess with screens and targets over 5 yards sort of thing, or under 5 yards. And then Curtis Samuel is motion with go routes. Keon Coleman, he has his issues, but all his first year was back shoulder throws and quick slants. Like, we're pigeonholing these wide receivers into 2 jobs, and they really just need to open them up and allow them to be more open and run all the routes that are possible. Because Khalil Shakir can run whip routes. He can run intermediate routes. Josh Palmer, runs ins and runs outs and sometimes and had 1 post for the Atlanta Falcons. That was a great play until he got hurt, right? So I just think that the creativity is out the window because I feel like our coaching staff feels like our wide receivers aren't creative enough. Does that make any sense to you?
Yeah, I bet you some of it does fall on the wide receivers, which does fall on Bean. But they're at the same time, as the coach, you got to make adjustments. You at least got to try new plays. Like, at least try them. It's in the regular season. This is where you try these things. Oh, it doesn't work? Okay. You scrap that from the playbook. But when you're running the same things over and over again and the defense knows and this causes Josh to be like, all right, his first read's not there. The defense clearly hasn't figured out. Now I got to bail from a pocket and try and run around and scramble. And now everyone's questioning Josh's decision-making. And it's because he's not trusting what he's seeing. He's bailing early because he's like, oh, crap, the first read's not there. The defense knows exactly what we're playing. I got to try and run around and make a play to find someone open. Because right now, the only time the offense works is broken down plays and misdirections, which is Josh having to do these things. I'm not saying Josh has no blame at all. He has definitely made some boneheaded throws, some bad decisions. He is bailing from pockets early, but I think it all stems down to the fact that he has no trust in the wide receivers, and then he has no trust in the play calling, where when these wide receivers aren't getting open right away, he's just bailing because he's like, oh, here's another play that broke down. I got to try and make something out of nothing. And he just doesn't want to throw it away every time because he doesn't want to just keep punting, which is understandable. So he's taking sacks. And there, again, you could look at film and be like, oh, well, he could have done this, that, and the third. Like on that, the last play of the game, the interception. If Theo Ash on TikTok made a breakdown of the play, broke it down perfectly, and then everyone in the comments just completely ignored it. Like, oh, Josh Allen's PR is insane. They didn't understand anything. But when you're reading coverage, you read it from one side of the field to the other. The play was he was supposed to read the right side of the field to left. So Knox was his last read. So he's reading. He's getting pressure in his face, and he sees Josh Palmer is kind of open. And yeah, maybe he could have been like, I'm Josh Allen. I'm going to sit in here. I'm going to just go to Knox. But at the same time, he's like, well, these guys aren't usually getting open anyways. It's 4th down. I got to get rid of the ball because if I sit in here and Knox is covered, then I'm taking a sack and it's game over anyways. He sees Palmer's kind of open. And yeah, it ends up being a bad play, miscommunication. Palmer cut up field more so. He was like looking towards the end zone. Josh threw it like he was going to keep cutting across the field. So a little miscommunication. The play looked really bad, but it wasn't really a bad decision per se because that was like his 4th read. He has pressure in his face. He sees a dude that's semi-open. He's going to throw the ball. Obviously, it didn't work out, but it's not like this awful decision like people are making out to be. Yeah, Josh deserves some blame. You in the film room, you look at it and you'd be like, Josh, no, next time just go to Knox to your read and stand in there and you make the throw. But you can understand Josh's head in real time because that's what you have to look at it. In real time, you can't just use still shots to make your decision, like make your opinions on things. You have to actually read things out. And that's what happened. And again, this is a situation of people blaming Josh. And I mean, yeah, he, again, hasn't been as good when it's really not the issue. It's these compounding issues piling up, causing Josh to do these things.
Yeah, and he also had a free rusher with like basically Knox's angle when he was running through it. He had a free rusher coming right at him that definitely messed up his angle at that point. But I mean, yeah, it's definitely 100%. He's too sped up because of Joe Brady's play calling and then our wide receivers when it comes down to that. So, by the way, for everybody that I don't like to gatekeep fandom ever because you are allowed to, if you pay for anything Bills, you are allowed to talk about the Bills however you like as long as it's nothing crazy. But one thing is that I do think Bills fans need to pump the brakes on people assuming that Josh Allen's going to ask for a trade after the first minor glimpse of adversity. You know, some Bills fans are claiming for Josh Allen to request a trade, saying that we failed him, which is crazy. But I do agree when it comes down to Brandon Beane. I do believe when we got Von Miller, and I know a lot of people, your immediate reaction is he was old and injury prone. I do believe the acquisition of Stephon Diggs and then Von Miller was a Super Bowl winning team. I think that roster, I think that year when we were before Von Miller tore his ACL was a year. Yeah, was a year where we were going to win the Super Bowl. So that was it. So I do believe that Brandon Beane built a Super Bowl winning team, and I do believe he can do it again, especially when we are sitting here in year 2 of a little hurried up rebuild of a retool. Exactly. We got rid of Diggs a year too early. You know, a lot of people say that we could have kept him. Yeah, we could have kept him, but it wouldn't have worked out as everybody had suspected, just being like, nah, you got to stay with us. So we did get at that time a 2nd-round pick, which wide receivers were going for far less than that. So we got a 2nd-round pick out of that. So in year 2 of our rebuild, I think we did do a good job of retooling the defensive line when we saw it in its full aspect. So now we can just retool more, as you discussed, Miley, with the cap space that we will have coming into the year, into this offseason. I believe we can fully, with cuts and restructures, get up to $60 million. We could spend Brandon Beane needs to spend $40 million of that next year, in my personal opinion.
AJ Brown, well, his cap is only $22 million next year. Brandon Ayuk's probably going to get cut. DJ Moore is available. Maybe you try Jalen Waddle again, but I don't think the Dolphins are going to trade him. It seems like how they've kind of looked the last couple of weeks. They got a little something to build off of at least. I think they probably keep him. But I think, or who knows, Justin Jefferson, how pissed off he's getting in Minnesota. I don't see them trading him, but it's something to monitor, or maybe Addison. Like there's definitely a lot of ways that he can attack the wide receiver room or defense. Trey Hendrickson, maybe Myles Garrett sets a sack record. The Browns have 3 wins, and he's like, all right, screw this. I'm never playing for you again. And we just give up everything we own for him because please, yes, I would do anything for Myles Garrett because our defense becomes elite as soon as we add him. He's just that good. And I saw this comment. I did want to get to it. I think the KC game, he didn't trust our wide receivers. That was a Dalton Kincaid game. Our wide receivers did not play that good in that game. It was mostly Kincaid and Cook and Allen making some timely runs. The Baltimore and Tampa, those were Baltimore
was soft coverage.
Yeah, soft coverage in the 4th quarter when we were forced to throw and he was forced to try and throw to his receivers. And then Tampa, their secondary is just god awful. That people were just wide open. And again, a lot of the plays outside of Tyrell Shavers, it was the running backs. Ty Johnson had a 50-yard touchdown. James Cook had a 30-yard touchdown. A lot of it wasn't even the wide receivers. I mean, Shavers had the touchdown on a busted coverage. Like, it's not like Josh was dicing it up with these wide receivers again. It was either like one of the worst secondaries in football, soft coverage, or it's running backs and tight ends.
Yeah, I mean, I will say though, when it comes down to, I believe when Josh trusted the wide receivers, I think in Tampa Bay, because you're right, Baltimore soft coverage for sure. KC, we just went on all cylinders. KC was a great game. Like,
we seem to have a very good,
exactly.
very good game plan to match up well against KC's defense.
We build our roster to beat KC, and that's an issue because now Kansas City 6-5 and not in the playoffs right now. But with Tampa Bay, when it comes down to it, is I do think that we need to look at Tampa Bay and design our future offense for this year the way we ran Tampa Bay, but with Joe Brady adjusting correctly, because there was good Josh Palmer intermediate routes. Shakir had intermediate routes in that game, and then Shavers was being used well. A lot of Shavers routes in the Houston Texans game, there was a couple that he was open. He had a really good intermediate dig, but obviously the play went through. I believe Dawson Knox had a first down marker at that point. So I think Tampa Bay gave Josh Allen trust in the receivers, but then what ended up happening was Houston Texans with the number one defense on a short week. Hopefully Josh will reset, because really the Houston Texans game was our bad offensive line game. You know, they don't have bad offensive line games in a while. So I really do think that if the offensive line played 25% better, we probably would have won that game, to be honest with you. We probably would have had one more drive with one more
Spencer
touchdown.
Brown and Deion Dawkins' worst games of their career, which for how good they've been all year was very shocking.
Right, for sure. So I do believe that. And then let's get to Bills fans question, because you did ask a little bit earlier, but not really predicated on what we were talking about. But what do you feel about our playoff chances and Josh's play?
I am still very confident that we're going to make the playoffs. Personally, I think our most important game left on the schedule is actually this week against Pittsburgh, because it'll probably be a tiebreaker for a wild card. Like, yeah, if we want any chance of the division, we'd have to beat New England. But really, the only team left that we have to play that we're going to be fighting for a wild card positioning is Pittsburgh. So having that win, that basically means we're guaranteed tiebreaker over KC and whoever doesn't win the AFC North, which could be huge coming down to it to get like one of those wild card spots. I mean, Houston's schedule is still pretty tough. Jacksonville, they either play a really good team or a really bad team the rest of the way. Like, so there's chances those teams could kind of fall off. I mean, Jacksonville went to overtime with the 3-8 Cardinals. Like, they kind of almost choked that game away. Like, I'm still not totally sold on Jacksonville. And Houston's playing really good, but they still have Kansas City, Jacksonville twice, and Indy twice. And I think they have another decent team like coming up. Their schedule, I'm pretty sure, is like really, really tough if I remember looking at it correctly. Or the Chargers, they still have some tough games left. They still have to play KC and Denver, and I think the Colts maybe. Pretty sure, maybe not, but no, they definitely have to play the Colts. Yeah, because if the Chiefs play the Colts, it's not. Yeah, so they still have to play. Oh no, they already played the Colts. I'm thinking of a different team, but I know they have a tough game coming up. And then they still have two more division. Like, all these teams do have tough games. So do we. But I think we can get in at 11-6. I think I'd be very comfortable. 10-7, it gets a little sketchy. And again, having that win against Pittsburgh would be huge for a tiebreaker. So that's kind of how I feel. I still feel pretty confident. I get we're playing Cincinnati with Joe Burrow now, but that defense has still got awful. Their run defense is probably worse in the league. And we're at home. That's if we're in Cincy, I'm getting real nervous about that game. But at home, I think James Cook runs for 200 yards. And I think that we're going to be able to, we'll win that game like 35-31 or something like that. I think it could be like the Tampa game all over again. But Pittsburgh, I'm decently confident because even if Rodgers plays, I doubt it'll be 100%. And Mason Rudolph sucks. I think we'll be able to pull out a 17-10 win, 20-10, 20-13, something in that range. Just get out of there with the win. And then you have Cincy at home. You get that, then you're to 9-4, and things are looking pretty good. I get they still Philly and New England, but they also have the Jets, the last home game ever at the Ralph. That game is I've been very confident about some wins before and we've lost them, but the last game ever at the old stadium against one of the worst teams in football, the energy there's going to be off the charts for that game. Where I would be very, very, very. If we don't win that game, I wouldn't even want to make the playoffs because if we couldn't win a game like that, we couldn't win anything.
Oh, all day. I do agree. I mean, it is not crazy. The way the AFC shook up is it's not out of the realm that the number 1 seed is 13-4, and we have 4 losses when it comes down to it. And then there's also a chance where we're the 3 seed and we do have a wild card spot with 1 more loss, and it comes down to it. The AFC is so wide open to where we could have a home game in the first. It's a full possibility in that range. And then really, it's just we have to know that having Josh Allen in the playoffs and how cool he is in the playoffs with these new quarterbacks that will be in there. If the Steelers are in there, if Aaron Rodgers is, but he's older and slower. But Daniel Jones being in the playoffs, Drake May being in the playoffs, these quarterbacks, Bo Nix in the playoffs, all these quarterbacks that are inexperienced in the playoffs, we have a huge edge with Josh Allen in there. So our playoff chances are good. Josh's play is good. The kicker is when we get to the playoffs, the defensive line is my biggest worry, is that every single time we go to the playoffs, our defensive line can't create pressures. We give up 30 plus points. Josh Allen has to score 38 points to win and get through, and then we have that same song and dance. So the defensive line needs to be figured out by week 17, and then we can go, and then I can have more confidence in there.
Yep. I agree with this 100%. I don't get how after the first couple of sacks, we're not putting Jackson Hawes in the field almost every play. Be like, your assignment is mostly just to block. Because
it will be.
You have him just start chipping Will Anderson because Spencer Brown wasn't healthy, and then Dion did better against Danielle Hunter than Spencer Brown did against Will Anderson. So you have him chipping, and then maybe you kind of slide David Edwards over, and you double Danielle or something like that, and then you have Torrance and McGovern worry about the other guys rushing, the other 2 rushing because they're mostly just rushing 4. The fact that they didn't adjust like that was very frustrating, especially late when we were forced to start throwing the ball. It didn't make much sense why we were just continuing 5-man protections.
We're going to need to do that this Sunday as well because Spencer Brown will be out. So you have Ryan Vandermark at right tackle against TJ Watt. So basically, same song and dance when it comes to Pittsburgh. Is that right tackle? Vandermark is not the greatest. I know that we opened up the 21-day window of Tylen Grable, but I don't think he'll be ready this week. So Hawes will need to be by Vandermark to cover that side.
Yeah, or even some Knox. I mean, Knox isn't a bad blocker, but I'd much rather have Hawes run a lot of 12 personnel in this game, where you have Knox running routes, and then you have Hawes in to protect in 6-man. I get it, kind of. You have less people running routes, but Pittsburgh's secondary is not nearly as good as Houston's. That's kind of the
100%.
weakness of their defense. If you're going to attack their defense, you attack it through the air, you attack it through their secondary. Definitely don't want to get that pass rush going after you because, TJ Watt is a game wrecker. So you're definitely going to want to give some help there, 100%.
For sure. So before we're at 45 minutes, thank you for everybody listening. We got 81. If you could like and subscribe, that would be great. But when we get down to the nitty gritty and the Steelers, the matchup, we talk about Mason Rudolph, but we just lost to Davis Mills. So I am generally a little bit concerned, especially because it's a kind of a little bit like the Spider-Man meme when it comes to Joe Brady's play calling in the Pittsburgh Steelers, right? Pittsburgh lives in 13 personnel. They love their tight ends. They love their short passing. And then they hope for a lot of yak. I think Pittsburgh and Buffalo are top 3 in yards after the catch because that's what they rely on. They rely on screens and everything along those lines. So it's going to be an interesting matchup. And you talk about how we're going to beat them in the deep end. How do you think Joe Brady's going to dial that up?
I think we're going to have to get the run game going. Get TJ Watt not out of pass rush mode. Basically run the side, run a lot of through the 1 hole, the 2 hole, 3 hole, but not where Casey Hayward is. They basically run away from him, but also not to the outside that much. Do no toss plays. Quit calling them. They suck. The only reason they worked against the Panthers is because the Panthers suck more. That's the only game it's worked against. So please stop with halfback toss is probably the worst run play in football because unless the linebackers absolutely are terrible, like in Carolina. Defenses are just too athletic. It's too hard to block without holding because there's too much space, and it just doesn't work that often. Yeah, you have to hope if the linebackers are terrible, yeah, sure, spam it all the time.
Right.
But it's
Right.
not that many teams have that bad of linebackers where it's going to work. So I wouldn't call halfback dives either. I would call a lot of zone running. I think that's how we'd have to beat them. A lot of inside zones, maybe a couple like stretch plays or off tackles just to at least keep them honest. But we're going to have to try and hit some of those. I would like to see a fake screen. Teams have been biting on the screen. So yes, call a couple of screens. They're probably going to bite and it won't work. Set it up and then late second quarter or in the second half, hit a fake screen and it should be open for a touchdown. Because with how hard teams are biting right now, because we have no threat of that, I think a fake screen could work great. I think you're going to have to pull out some trick plays, not like super cute plays, but pull out a little bit of more tricky, a lot more misdirection and stuff like that to try and get Pittsburgh's defense moving around, create a little bit of chaos, because that's where Josh thrives, is in chaos. And I think that's how we're going to have to do. Joe Brady really just has to open up the playbook.
Yeah, I very much agree. I think we can take deep shots. I think Josh Allen's ready to kind of talk about being able to stretch it. First of all, we should have done that against the Houston Texans. We needed a couple more bombs to make that play action actually work and for them to honor it. And that's really where that predictability came from, is Houston could set their defense and not move because we never tested it in the deep area. And then they could just play their box. There's 9 people in the box, 8 people in the box, and say, just run the ball sort of thing. So I do agree. On the defensive side, if Aaron Rodgers plays, those short passes is what's going to be kicker, because they're going to want to get the ball out of him quick, especially with his left wrist fractured. So they're going to want to get rid of it quick. So defensively, they've had 10 days off. I know they're beaten up. But if they don't tackle against the Pittsburgh Steelers, then there's a conversation to be had where McDermott goes before the season ends. Because if you cannot take a 10-day rest after that dismantling by the Houston Texans, and then they come up and not being able to tackle against the Pittsburgh Steelers, then we're going to have a problem where
it's not like Pittsburgh has elite playmakers either.
They don't. Darnell Washington's 311 pounds. You're going to have to take 2 guys to take him down. You need to understand DK Metcalf, what his routes are. Put him on Christian Benford. Double him with either Poyer or Cole Bishop, and just read him on that, and then let the rest play out. But as long as you tackle well, and then can get Aaron Rodgers down to the ground 2 or 3 times, I think defensively we can handle it. It's just McDermott. This is a McDermott game. If he does not get this defense, Davis Mills scored 20 points in 1.5 against us, and that is a fireable offense in my head, to be honest with you, especially the way this season's playing out. They can't come off flat-footed. They need to be strong, and they need to be able to tackle.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to bring up about the game it was another Theo Ash video that I was watching, that Houston's corners were actually purposely getting beat by the Bills wide receivers just to play trail technique, so they couldn't break in towards the middle. Basically, they were saying, if you want to beat us, you have to take deep shots. And it was like, well, Josh just has no trust in his receivers. So that is part on Josh, where he has to be like, all right, I'm gonna rip it deep to Josh Palmer. And maybe Josh Palmer's getting healthier, but it's also just be on Joe Brady. Clearly, Houston saw we have no threat of a deep game, so we're going to load the box and have our corners play trail technique to take the underneath stuff away.
Yep.
So in this game, I bet you Mike Tomlin is watching the same thing, and he's telling Jalen Ramsey and company, Joey Porter, to do the exact same thing. So this is the game, like you did in Atlanta. First play of the game, play action post. You test it. You have Josh Palmer run it, and you just rip it. Unless it's like absolutely blanketed where it's a guaranteed pick if you throw it. I don't even care if it falls incomplete. Just rip the thing. To at least, because that's what happened against Tampa pretty early on. I mean, I called it from the stands. I remember I saw Mecole in the field. I'm like, play action post to him.
I said the same thing.
Yeah. I'm like, it's the play. And they threw it, and I'm like, oh my God, I was right. I'm like, I said it was going to be for a touchdown, but that's just because I wanted it to be. But I'm like, play action post and do it with Josh Palmer. First play of the game. I don't really care. And unless they read it like a book and there's a safety sitting there waiting, you just rip it. And just so the defense be like, all right, maybe we can't play this trail technique because they are willing to throw the ball and it'll open things up like it did in the Tampa game. Our offense was kind of struggling. We threw that deep shot and things started opening right up afterwards.
100%. And Shakir was wide open on an intermediate crosser. And even when even when they didn't hit him, we were like, well, that's actually good. Like Mecole Hardman, brand new, speedy guy, do it. Like I was not even mad that he didn't hit Shakir on that one,
because he goes at IR.
Yeah, I know. That it was a first read thing. So I very much agree. I think we can make it work. I think if we get this win, then we start kind of rolling through, and then we hit, we can at least possibly run it, or at least only go with one more loss and get in those top three, so we can have at least one home game. But
Yeah. Also, we better not lose to Cleveland. If I back-to-back years, if I have to spend money to go watch my team lose on the road, I'm going to be pissed. Last year it was Houston. Going down to Cleveland this year. I'm a little scared about Myles Garrett because
I know.
he has more sacks in the last 4 games than anyone does in the NFL.
Crazy.
Tied with Brian Burns.
And people are still one-on-oneing him.
Yeah, and people are trying to say TJ Watt was better than him. TJ Watt's never been better than him. Myles Garrett's been the best defensive player in football since Aaron Donald retired.
Correct. And if Myles Garrett was on a winning team, he could possibly surpass Aaron Donald, to be honest with you, with the accolades and everything. I mean, Myles Garrett's going to break the record this year.
Yeah, he has 18. Yeah. He has to what? And he's going to break it in less than 16 games, so people can't even be like, oh, 17 games.
Good point.
He might break it in 2 weeks. I don't know who they have to play.
He probably will.
Week 14, I'm pretty sure they play the Titans. I bet you he breaks it that game.
100%. 100%. But yeah, one step at a time, Bills fans. One step at a time. I think if we have a sound game where Joe Brady doesn't look incompetent, then somebody told him in the front office, been like, hey, like he's losing jobs. Let's be real.
Yeah, Josh Allen, what are we doing after that fourth down blunder?
I'm sure that every single, every offensive coordinator that wants to be a head coach is looking at Buffalo being like, all right, Joe Brady's definitely out of there. Like, I would like that. I would like that head coaching opportunity, right? Let me coach Josh Allen and let it get it done. So and the reason why we're talking about, letting Brady go or letting McDermott go, I personally believe that McDermott has made his run, and I love McDermott. I think he could win a Super Bowl. I don't think it should be Buffalo. I think Josh Allen deserves an offensive-minded coach in his later years to let him play longer and make it easier for him to get that Super Bowl.
Like Stafford.
Exactly.
And that's where it's like Stafford's not playing better football than he did in Detroit. He just has a much better situation. He was always elite in Detroit. It's just no run game, no defense, awful coaching. And now you give him a competent run game, a great defense, and the best coach in football. And, he's putting up crazy numbers. Who would have thought?
Riddle me that. Yeah.
Quarterbacks don't really play that much worse year to year. Yeah, towards the end of their career, when they start to fall off, they fall off. It's really and they can ascend. But when the quarterbacks are in their prime, they don't play worse year to year. It's not that much worse. What usually is worse is the supporting cast or the coaching. That's what changes a lot. And that's why you see fluctuation in people's numbers. And that's why you can't just look at numbers to decide how good a player is. Like Josh Allen has the most touchdowns in football, but I wouldn't say he's playing the best quarterback in football right now. I would say Stafford's playing better than him. And I mean, after how bad Drake May looked against the Bengals, I might be willing to say Josh is playing better than Drake May, but numbers are kind of deceiving. I would say Herbert, his numbers don't look great, but he's the worst offensive line in football. I think that he's playing better than people think. Same thing with Mahomes. I think he's playing. They have no run. They have statistically one of the worst run games of all time. And I think that's part of it too. Mahomes, I think, still playing great football.
Right. No, great. And Mahomes is in the same position that Josh Allen is right now. He does not have trust in the wide receivers. Yeah.
He at least has wide receivers to throw to, but the worst run game in football. We have one of the best run games in football, but no wide receivers to throw to.
He also looks a little sped. I think Patrick Mahomes looks a little sped up as well, and it's causing him to Mahomes is not technically missing his progressions, but he's throwing the ball quicker because he feels the pressure more, and that's causing off-target throws.
Yep. Because he has Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce, which would easily be the best weapons in Buffalo. Maybe that's you can argue Kincaid when healthy. You can argue Kincaid when healthy is statistically, efficiently been the best tight end in football, but he's made of glass, unfortunately.
Yeah, I know. I feel that. All right. Anything else to add? We're close to the hour. I appreciate everybody staying in and watching.
Go score predictions?
Yeah, let's go score predictions. That's right. I had 21-17 Buffalo.
I had 2017 Buffalo.
It makes sense. It's going to be low scoring because, again, both teams are going to want a short pass for a little bit. Hopefully they take those long shots. they will play time of possession, and they will try to limit the scores. So, yeah, I think it is going to be a little bit lower scoring.
Also, last thing is, please give me Clint Kubiak and Jake Peets. That's like for Christmas. That's my Christmas wish list. For Clint Kubiak to be head coach and Jake Peets to be offensive coordinator, or at least Jake Peets to be offensive coordinator. I think that would do absolute wonders. We go and get an A.J. Brown and we bring in Jake Peets and we have the best offense in football next year. I literally think you make those two moves and it's like that.
Yep, Jake Peets has a Joe Brady connection, has a Carolina Panthers connection.
He loves 12 personnel.
Loves 12 personnel. It is a perfect fit with Jake Peets. And yes, if we get rid of McDermott, please Clint Kubiak. You saw what Clint Kubiak did with Geno Smith and what Geno Smith looks like now. And and now you look what Sam Darnold in the transition of going from Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison over to Seattle, which Jackson Smith and Jigba is the best wide receiver right now. But what he could transition Sam Darnold into doing is impressive.
Yeah. Or look at the Saints. The Saints looked like they had the best offense in football through a month last year until legitimately every starter got injured. That was a lot because of Clint Kubiak. He had that run game cooking, the deep pass game cooking, and then he moves over to Seattle and has Sam Darnold looking like an MVP.
Yep. Yeah. So, Brandon Beane, listen. Just get rid of him. Bring him over.
Please. Yeah. I'm begging you. What do I have to do for this? Like, name what you want me to do, and I'll do it.
Yeah. You tell us, and then we'll say yes or no, sort of thing. But it'll probably be a yes.
I say yes. I don't know what I would say no to.
Yeah. Give us like a nil fund, right? Like the amount of Western New Yorkers that would go put in a nil fund for Clint Kubiak and Jake Peets would probably be an insane amount of money.
Because not only that, then you could just Clint Kubiak and just take people from the Seattle coaching staff, or Peets has been with the Rams and Kubiak with the Niners, and he could take all the best coaching staffs in football. Take your pick of all these guys to fill out the roster and just be like, all right, but Aaron Kromer stays. Everyone else, fill out entire defensive staff, offensive staff with plus Kromer. I really think that's all it needs. And you do that, you make one splash on offense, you make one splash on defense, and I think we're Super Bowl favorites next year. It sounds simple. It sounds like it makes a lot of sense, so it won't happen. But if that's the game plan, if you're really serious, that's what you need to do.
I mean, it does make sense, especially because their needs are strong in this draft class. So we're looking at linebacker and safety, both strong positions. Wide receiver, deep. Literally, wide receiver, linebacker, and safety are the deepest spots in this draft class. So we can go off big acquisitions outside of those, draft those guys. And I do believe, I honestly, seriously, I'm on the same wavelength as you in that, is we are 6 to 7 players from winning the Super Bowl, and we can get it all done this year. This offseason.
We'll have the cap space. We have draft picks. You get a good coaching staff. You get a couple big names, and you fill in some spots in the draft. Again, it sounds simple. Obviously, football is not that simple. But in a vacuum, they're not that far off. Like some people, I've seen people on Twitter, and then they'll just start naming all the needs. They were naming offensive tackle as a need, and I'm like, all right, buddy. I just not even going to bother responding to you because you're an idiot. I've seen people say Deion Dawkins is a surprising cut candidate, and I'm like,
I saw that. That was a troll. But yes, and hey, if we do make it to the Super Bowl this year, I will cut up this podcast and I will blast it in full shame. We'll tag what's that account that I can't think of right now? Cold Takes.
Yeah, freezing cold takes.
Freezing cold takes. Hey, I will tag freezing cold takes and everything.
I still think this team could win the Super Bowl. I genuinely feel confident they can get hot. I've seen them at their best their best this year. Is able to win the games. They've beaten good teams. Yeah. They can. Right. The problem is I just don't trust the consistency. That's why I still think we're a playoff team, and it's get 100%. In, and anything can happen when you have Josh Allen and you have the experience. At least you have that going for you, and we could make a run, especially with how the Chiefs look this year, especially with how Baltimore looks this year. And I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I could see the path. I'm not saying this team's done, but kind of looking towards next year as the year, and I've been saying that since before the year. You know that.
You have, yep.
Yeah, I've been saying that since basically the start of this offseason. Really, since last year, I've kind of viewed 27 as the year.
Yep. Well, let's get it done.
Yeah.
All right. All right, folks. Thanks, everybody. If you could please like and subscribe before you take off, we appreciate it. Again, that's how the little guys win. Miley, appreciate you. Good chat. We got Alex. Alex was not in this week, but he would probably be enraged on today. But we'll get all his thoughts next Monday. We appreciate everybody.
Sucks that I missed last week when we had a win, but at least I will have to watch the Sabres win, so it kind of balanced out.
Bingo. All right, folks. Go Bills. Beat the Steelers. We'll see you next Monday.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. Good call.